Right now, activate your pressure suits. Let's find that heavy water and get out of here. Gotcha! Come Torpedo, baby.
Welcome back to the Titanium Hanger. This is Mike, and I'm coming at you with the Hiya Toys Exquisite Mini G.I.Joe Torpedo. This is their take on a G.I.Joe Classified-esque 4-inch scale version of Torpedo. Now, this is more of a modernized take, a little bit of vintage flair to it, but not much. And I did get this at Gundam.com, which is a subsidiary of Shozy Store. And I'm going to take a look at this guy, tell you what I think about it, and all of the stuff. And then, of course, compare it, sort of. I'm going to have to compare it to an eel for Classified. But I've got the vintage. We'll do the vintage comparison, all that kind of stuff. Get into this, and don't worry about Destro back there. He's getting a fang pulled on this wonderful day. Coming up. All right, here is the packaging for Torpedo. They do have a sticker on it. I will have to do a little heat on that to get it off there. Here's on the back. So, really not super retro, but and it's punched. But still looks nice. I mean, if you want to display these in the package, they'd still look fun to display. All right, so here he is out of the packaging, and looks quite different than kind of what I was expecting. The coloration's slightly different, but still not bad. Not bad at all. A good looking figure, mostly. Definitely starting to see the similarities between this and, say, a Classified figure, and less like what we saw on 25th Anniversary. And although he's got his flippers on there, that usually makes them stand up a lot better. It doesn't make him stand up quite as well. Sort of still back heavy with his backpack on and all of those kind of things, but overall, still pretty cool looking figure. One of the things that I thought was interesting is they did already put the apparatus on him, so he's packed with the apparatus on. So there, let's pull this off real quick, see what his head looks like. That's his head. That's his face. And way different way different route than the vintage one. And so we'll do that comparison here in a bit. And I think I'm going to try to get a Classified comparison too. But still pretty cool. Let's get into looking at these accessories. I guess we should do articulation. So the head's, of course, on the ball joint. So we get all of the same stuff you would from a ball jointed head. Shoulder goes out to here. And you get the butterfly worked into it, which is pretty nice. Some of this gear is going to get in the way of it, though. And it flips all the way around. So you can get pretty much every direction you'd want out of that ball joint and movement there, too. Double jointed elbows, it appears, so you can get a really tight upward grip. You got torso articulation, which is going to be hindered by the backpack, but it's still there. And you got the waist articulation. So ball joint, and then legs, I forget the dagger out of the way, can go, oh, we could have just slid it down, almost to the 90 to the side, front and back, almost, well, this one definitely goes, so it goes all the way to the 90 at the front, not all the way to the back. And then thigh swivel, like we're used to. Double jointed on the knees, so we can get some like underwater kind of stuff going on, action there. And the foot, side, front and back, side to side, which I'm not going to push too hard on these because I want the tightness and I don't want to lose it. So, but you do have the front and back and side to side on the foot. Alright, so this is what it looks like next to the original vintage, and this is the Classified eel, which I have a retro one so you can actually see it. I think this was the era where it was closed box, so, and I don't have a loose version of Torpedo, so we'll pull this out and we'll see the similarities that we see there. But here goes versus Torpedo. Now you're going to notice that they went with different colorations, so for whatever reason, back in the day, they used gray instead of white, and this is white. So even this gray, though, on the vintage one, the gray does tend to yellow. It turns like a discoloration. And then looking at how they did the flippers were very retro on this, and then the flippers on that one are much different, more, I guess, a modern take on the flippers. Then you also look at the spear gun, very, very simplistic spear gun versus a more probably accurate spear gun for the Classified. And then you look around to the backpack, and the breathing apparatus. I don't believe Torpedo never had the hoses. As with, we saw with the eel had hoses, and then later on we saw Wetsuit have hoses and stuff. But with this whole apparatus, makes a lot more sense with the modern figure, but it really is much easier to get a complete vintage Torpedo than it is to get any of the eel or any of those other ones back in the day, because they did come with those other hoses and stuff. But with that, I like the charm of this one, but I never really was a fan of the vintage Torpedo figure. I thought it was too simplistic and plain and boring, in my opinion. I did like the Wetsuit figure a whole lot better, but really there's no need to compare that because they're not even similar. Well, they are in a way. We're going to compare this to the eel because the eel did do a lot of reuse with Torpedo equipment, or at least I believe it did. But I mean, looking at this, it literally feels like they KO undersized the eel and the Torpedo. But different types of articulation in the body structure. It's not really what we're here for. And I want to point this out. If you look at the gun, it's like the same gun. It is designed almost the same as that gun right there. Get rid of the glare. And you got the strap, and then you've got the way you have this bar here. It is very, very similar. Very, very, very similar. And then you look at the backpack, and it is very, very similar also. Now, it's not exactly the same because this is a little bit different, but very, very similar. Very similar. So it's like everyone says, this is kind of like a shrunken down version of Classified. Now the face mask is different, and I believe it is different for the Classified Torpedo also. I mean, some stuff's shared, some stuff is different. The knife, the dagger, is very, very similar also, just from the whole design aspect of it. Just smaller, and it's really hard to show. But yeah, it's, I mean, hard to show it on camera, but it's very, very, very similar. So a lot of these similarities in here, body structure different, but that's what to expect. I'm starting to wonder, did they even do a retro Torpedo? I don't even remember because I don't have a retro Torpedo. So that might be something, if they made, I need to look up and look into. All right, this is my look at the Hiya Toys Exquisite Mini Torpedo G.I. Joe figure. And I got to say that it's a little bit modern. It's not true to the original vintage, and it's actually still not 100% true to what they did in the Classified, but does share a lot more with Classified in the 4-inch scale. I actually like it. I think it's kind of a cool looking figure. I always thought Torpedo was kind of a boring figure anyway, and this gives it a little bit more flair. Lots of points of flair. But I did get this at Gundamit.com. You can have a link down below where you can get yours. Remember, TH support the reviewer, help the channel out, and this toy line is really hard to get. You can only seem to get it from overseas, and of course the US retailers would charge a whole lot more. I think it's like $35 still available right now, and that's the funny thing, there only seems to be like 1 or 2 available at a time, and then they sell out and never come back. But let me know what you guys think about this. Are you in on these, or is it just fun to watch it and see what's going on with Hiya Toys 4-inch scale? Like and subscribe. Deer Hanger out.
Torpedo, carry on with the mission. We'll try to cover you.
Roger, dude. Heavy water, here I come. We've got to work together if any of us are going to get out of this. Otherwise, we'll wind up worm food.